This week we're going to be doing still life contour drawings. So I've uploaded to Canvas a series of photos of different still lives for you to draw from, and I'll be showing you how to begin composing your drawings in this lecture. I hope this is legible. This will be reiterated in text on the assignment description, so you'll be able to review it there. But I just wanted to go over with you briefly the materials, techniques, and vocabulary we're going to be using in this lesson. So our materials are charcoal pencil, X-Acto blade or razor blade to sharpen this pencil. You will also need a sandpaper pad to smooth out the end of your charcoal pencil. An eraser, I am using my Pentel white polymer eraser. And then lastly, you will also need a ruler or a T-square. I like this one because it's transparent, I can see through to my paper, and it also helps me create right angles if I need to. Techniques. We are going to be, of course, reviewing our knowledge of 1-point and 2-point perspective, except it's going to be a little bit different because we are now drawing actual objects in real space instead of imaginary objects in imaginary space. And then I will show you how to use sighting techniques when drawing objects from life. Vocabulary, some of these may be familiar from previous lessons. All right, so let's go over the details of the assignment. So hopefully this is good and legible, but again, this will also be typed into Canvas for your review. On my laptop screen, I have, before I get started, actually, I wanted to talk about some quick pointers to help you get started. When drawing things from life, especially in a still life with geometric objects like we do here, just some things to remember depending on how it's oriented. So each object is going to be turned ever so slightly. The reason the things that we drew in our 1-point and 2-point perspective exercises could all follow the same vanishing point or points is because they were all oriented in the same way. They were, in the case of 2-point perspective, it's a city, and that city is constructed on a grid. All of the rectangular and cube shapes were all facing the same direction and lined up in the same way. In this case, objects are going to be rotated in different directions. Therefore, each object is going to have its own vanishing point or vanishing points. So be aware of that. So unfortunately, you will not be able to rely on your vanishing points as a literal point of reference. So what then? So that means we have to rely on sighting. So I will show you an actual demonstration of this, but what sighting is, I don't know, you've probably seen it in cartoons and movies and stuff where the artist will hold up their pencil to the thing that they're drawing and like turn it different angles to kind of like, you know, like they'll close one eye and stick their tongue out and try to like, you know, size things up. And what they're doing is sighting. They're holding their pencil or drawing utensil up against the angle of an object. And then, so for example, if I have an object that has about a 45-degree angle like that, I will hold it up. In this case, you're holding it up to your screen to draw it. So you'll hold it up to your screen and match the angle of the object, and then you will float it over onto your paper and be like, okay, that is the angle that I need to make in order to draw this accurately. I've got my charcoal pencil sharpened the way that I like it. And you may notice that, let me pull one out of the box here. It's a little bit different from a charcoal pencil straight out of the box. And so this is how it would appear if you're using a pencil sharpener on this. I like to have a bit more charcoal to work with on the end, so let me show you how I sharpened this. You've got your razor blade or X-Acto blade here. You are going to hold the pencil like so, and hold your blade like so. I am holding it almost flush to the wood. It's just slightly angled, so the blade is slightly digging into the wood. Now, be very gentle when you do this, not only for your own safety, but also to avoid breaking the charcoal. So just gently grip the pencil tight and gently push. And then slowly rotate the pencil as you shave away bits of the wood. And I apologize if you hear any random dog barking or people talking while I am showing this demonstration because, well, I live in a house with people and these things happen. So I think, yeah, took away a little bit too much, so I'm just going to try to even that out. And then I'll just kind of gently scratch. The charcoal seems a little lumpy, so I'll just kind of scrape away any bumpy areas. And then I'll leave the rest to the sandpaper. So that, oops, there we go. Sometimes less is more. Don't get carried away shaping away too much. So that looks pretty good. So now I can take my sandpaper pad and just slowly kind of scrub it against the sandpaper. If you don't have your sandpaper pad with you, or if you forgot to get one, that's fine. You can still draw perfectly well just using a pencil sharpener on these. Or if you just have a regular piece of fine grit sandpaper, that will work just fine as well. So I'm just rotating it and scrubbing it and just gonna take a closer look at it to see. There we go. It looks really nice. Okay, I've made a mess. Ordinarily I would do this over a garbage can, but I wanted to show you. So I'm just gonna take my desk brush and sweep this out of here. So I've kind of got this scribble board here just to kind of show you the different kinds of line you can get with your charcoal pencil. Obviously the powder has a lot of potential for creating shadows, but we're not going to get into value just yet, so ignore that. I want to show you the different kinds of line that you can make. So just like with pencil, try not to grip your pencil too hard and try not to push on the paper too hard. I like holding my pencils at an angle. I don't really hold it vertically like this, like a lot of people do normally when they're writing. I keep it almost at a 45-degree angle with the paper. And so the great thing about having this long point on your charcoal pencil is that you can hold it against the paper and create broader marks like this. And then using the tip of it, you can make finer marks like this. This is also kind of cool when you're doing gestures because you can just kind of scribble something really quick and also vary your line your line weight within a stroke. So I could begin with a point and then tilt it and then rise it up again and then tilt it so the side is marking the paper. So of course, we're not going to be doing a lot of this in this assignment, but I just want to show you the possibilities that you have with a charcoal pencil, especially when we're going to be using it in conjunction with charcoal sticks. So let me tell you the difference between positive space, negative space, and the difference between a contour and an outline. So I'm going to sketch the still life image that I'm looking at on my computer screen. Just a quick gesture to kind of lay out where everything is at. So I'm going to do an outline of what I am seeing. And an outline is simply an outer contour that does not have any interior details of these objects. So this would roughly be an outline of all of these things. It is not a contour because there is no interior information. This is just separating the positive space from the negative space. Beginning artists get a little frustrated with trying to get the shapes and position of objects accurate. They're focusing too much on the positive space and ignoring the negative space. So sometimes it's like, oh man, you know, if you're trying to draw this, trying to get the angles of this right, I mean, you're sighting, you've got, you know, you think you're doing everything right, but it's like, it just doesn't look right. Well, stop focusing on the object and instead look at the outline, look at the shape that this negative space makes here. So right now I'm seeing that just by looking at this outer edge of everything, not even looking at these interior details, just looking at the outer edge, I am able to kind of follow that along better. Since I'm not even focusing on this, because this can be a little bit distracting. There's so much going on, even with these simple geometric shapes, that it can distract you from the bigger picture. So while you're doing a gesture sketch, try to just focus on the outline. Oops, and now I'm getting into contour, so just pretend I didn't. So I have a pretty good, so this is what I'd call an outline. And then I can get into the interior contours. And again, this is just a gesture, so I'm not measuring too much, just kind of getting a good feel for what is going on here. Yeah, so that's a good gesture sketch. And with this, so what I could do is I could set this aside and get a clean sheet of paper and use this as a reference. So like I can look at my gesture and how I've kind of mapped everything out, look at the photo reference, and then, you know, be able to like look at my actual drawing and compare them and see how I kind of solved problems in this one, how I divided the negative and positive space, and continue citing and checking and double checking from there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a gesture drawing of the still life before committing to the actual drawing paper. This will help you kind of get warmed up and get a better sense of what these objects are and how to draw them before you're committing to more permanent lines. I'm looking at the image of my still life on my computer screen. Since I'm working within a limited space here, this is square rather than rectangular like your drawing paper, so I'm going to try to make do. So let's make it, I'm just going to kind of widescreen it like that. There we go. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges in drawing a still life, or drawing anything from life really, is fitting everything you want on the paper. So what I like to do first is to triangulate, and that's another vocabulary word. So using 3 separate points, using sighting techniques to measure things. So I'll show you how I do that. So first I want to make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4 main objects that I want to draw, and I want to make sure they all fit here. So I'm going to kind of look at the extreme points of my composition, and then kind of mark those on my paper. So the farthest on this side of the drawing is going to be this corner of the board, and then the edge of the table as well. The tallest is going to be that cylinder that's somewhere over here, And then the farthest over here is that other kind of shorter cylinder and the box that's on top of it. Then we've got these two lids down here. Okay, so this is just kind of like a rough outline. So what I want to do is triangulate the proportions. So I'm going to start with one of these points and then compare them to other points in the drawing to get them positioned accurately. So I've got this flat piece of cardboard here. I think I'm going to draw that first. So from this point here, I'm going to sight the angle of that. So I'm holding my pencil, I'm closing one eye and holding my pencil up against the edge of this cardboard as it appears on the screen. And then I'm going to float it down without changing the angle of my pencil and kind of line it up here. So this is the angle of the line that I want to draw. So I'm not sure how long this is going to be proportionate. So in order to be sure of that, I am going to hold it up to the diagonal. You always want to, for any kind of square or box, crisscrossing from corner to corner will help you keep the proportions accurate. So I'm measuring from this corner to the corner that I'm trying to find over here. Now this dome that's sitting on top, that's going to be a little tough because it's completely round, but because it's completely symmetrical on all sides, we can probably just draw it in one point perspective. So I'm just going to kind of roughly mark where it exists. Let's see, it completely overlaps this part here, so we don't even see these edges. So it consists of 4 different levels on it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just to kind of figure that out. So if you really wanted to get the proportions just right, you could fit it inside of a cube. I have a good sense of what this is like, and then since I've got another diagonal on the board, I might as well mark that down. So the line's kind of going in that direction. Okay. So scratchy lines can kind of get confusing after a while, so once I've been trying to do these fairly light, so then I'll go in and reinforce these. This is just a gesture, so it can get as messy as you need it to be. So I've got that figured out. So now that I have this established, it's good to have one kind of key point of your composition that you're going to use to compare to these other objects here. So first of all, I want to make sure I drew this tall enough. So I'm going to check the angle from this corner to the top of the dome. I'm going to hold my pencil up there. So it makes this angle, I think it's actually a little bit taller. So I want to compare the top of this to the top of the cylinder that's going over here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold up to the image. I'm going to check the angle from, let's go from this edge of the top part of the dome to the top of the cylinder. That's about here. Okay, so my gesture mark was pretty close. And I mean, I'm making it look easy because I've been doing this for so long, but it may take you a couple tries before you kind of get the right mark down. So, but that's just one point. I can't completely rely on that. So in order to get everything placed properly. So I'm going to check another thing. I'm going to look, so I've got this point, this line up here, so this is where the top of the cylinder is going to be. I want to see where the bottom of the cylinder is going to be over here. So I'm going to go from that same point here and compare this point to this point and hold my pencil up there to see what angle that makes. So I'm holding my pencil up to the image. It makes about this angle. Another thing you can do too, if you're not great at, I'm pretty good at, or at least I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing over the years. Again, just another skill that you develop the more you've been working at this. Another thing you can do too is kind of check that and then slide your pencil and just kind of like make a little mark that way. Sorry if that's hard to see. So let me try that again so I can show you better. So like this, and then so while holding your pencil in that same angle, you can kind of tilt it and drag the tip of your pencil across like that while holding it at that same level or that same angle. Okay. So the bottom of the cylinder is going to be somewhere along this line, and I know it's going to be completely vertical. So I'm just going to, let's see, I'm just going to start from here to here, connect these two. I know it's going to be round on the bottom, so I can just kind of scribble that. And it's round and open on the top. Then I can connect this over here. I know, at least in this particular image, the cylinder is very shiny. Try not to get distracted by that. Just focus on the contour lines around the edge. Okay. So, it might not be this wide. Let me make it a little bit thinner. So right now I'm seeing already that I don't have enough room on this side of to keep this object completely within the drawing. So it's good that I did this gesture first, so when I go onto my paper, I can be mindful of making sure there's enough room for everything on here. But let me just see how much I can fit right now. So I've got this another weird cylinder shape with this box on top of it. So I'm going to check the angle from, I guess, this corner of the cylinder right up here to the top corner of this box. That's going to be like right around here. Okay, that's a little bit farther out than I had planned for. So again, this is another great reason to do a gesture before you commit to your paper, so you can kind of troubleshoot these issues. It also doesn't help that I'm kind of working within a very limited sketchbook surface, so. So the top of this box is going to be somewhere along this line. So that's 1 point, so that's 1 point, 2 point. So in order to triangulate this properly, I need a third point. So that third point is going to be, well, I actually don't know where this point is. This is still a mystery. So I need 1 point, and I need a second point, and then I can find where the top of this box is. So we got 1. Now I'm going to check the angle from the bottom of this cylinder to the point that's somewhere over here. So I'll hold my pencil up, line it up as best as I can. Makes about this angle. Okay. So my guess was pretty spot on, so it goes right around here. So in order to figure out where this thing is, I compare 2 points. So 1 angle, 2 angle, and see, here's the triangle that triangulates this here. So I have the top of the box here, and I want to find this edge. I know it's close to the cylinder, but just to be sure, I'm going to check again. So it kind of makes it's up here somewhere, and then I'll check from the top again. Okay, so I'll connect these two. Now I want to find, so now I've got like one edge of the box. So now I can kind of use this as a reference for the rest of the shape. So since I have this point figured out, I'll find the angle for the adjacent side of the cube. It's about like that. And they've got Fortunately for this, it's got these great diagonals on it. So this is sitting inside this kind of donut shape. And then I've got these two circles here. I just want to make sure that I've got them in the right spot. So I'm going to check the angle from this corner to the edge of this. So I think it goes a little bit further in. Yeah, so it makes this line here. And then I'm going to check from, I guess, kind of the little corner of this to the bottom here. Circles are kind of funky, so try triangulating as much as you can to get it just right. Let's see, so I know the edge is here. So again, we're kind of making a box, and then, let's see, I can divide that in half. And then render the circles inside of it. So now we're ready for the drawing paper. Right now, I've just scribbled a light gesture sketch in pencil to just kind of triangulate the extreme points of my composition. I have the tallest object marked here, the one that's farthest on the left here, and farthest on the bottom right over here. I kind of establish where they're going to be and to make sure that everything is going to fit on the paper. And then I can start measuring and making everything super polished. I like to have one main object that I complete, usually the simplest one. So I think I'm going to start with this over here because it's flat, and that will provide me with plenty of points to reference when triangulating the other objects here. I'm going to start with this edge here. So I know it's not going to go out this far, but it'll be somewhat similar. So I'm going to cite that, hold it up to the image, and it has produced this. So kind of mark that there. Okay, so I've got 1 and 2. So I want this to be proportionate, so I want to check. I'm going to find this diagonal. So I've got this flat piece of cardboard bisected, so it's crisscrossed this way and this way. So there's one. So I'm going to find the angle between this and this. Notice how I'm checking it a couple of times just to make sure I got it. So once I'm pretty sure about it, then I can get my ruler and make a nice clear mark like that. I'm going to reinforce this one while I'm at it. So now I want to check this one. Holding it up. Bringing it back down. Okay, so this is going to be around here. So it may seem tedious, I'm afraid, but the secret here is checking and then double checking. So let's see, that line ends here. Connect those points. So now I can connect these two, and I can connect these two, and I can connect these two. Looking pretty good. All right, I got that figured out. Now that I have so many different points to work with. I can use them to triangulate other objects in the composition. 2 cylinders stacked on top of each other. I want to figure out where the top corner of this, so I think, so this is like, the gesture is just like very rough, and I think my official lines are going to be a little without of bounds, so that's totally fine. So I'm gonna check the angle from this corner to the top here. So it's a little bit like that. Okay, I want to do that one more time because that was a little funky. This way. Okay. So I've got kind of an idea, but to really pin it down, I'm going to triangulate from this point to the point up here. This angle. Whoops. Okay. So my edge here should be right around here. Now, to find how wide this cylinder is going to be, so it's going to probably occupy approximately that much space. So I want to see, just like I did here, checking from corner to corner, I'm going to check from corner to corner here as well. So I also want to make sure I get the height accurate, so I'm going to just sight those corners as well, so from this point to that point. So it's a lot like a cube, except it's curved. Okay, so we're seeing the underside of this cylinder here. But then, because it's stacked on top of another cylinder, that cylinder is about here. So I want to see how tall this cylinder is. I'm just going to reinforce some of these lines just so they're nice and clean. So use really light marks when you're just kind of sketching, and then once you're pretty confident that's where you want your stuff to be, then you can start pressing hard and leaving some deep charcoal marks. I think this might be a little bit off. So again, lots of checking and double checking. So I'm going to want to redo this a bit. There we go. So I realize that this board overlaps more with the cylinder. But again, I can't be too sure how tall it is, so I gotta triangulate that as well. Check from this corner to that corner. Once you're done with some of your gesture marks, you can erase them out and sweep them away. It's fine if they're still visible as long as your bold charcoal lines kind of show which contours you're sticking with. The next thing I do is continue to clean up some of these stray lines. go over it again with some charcoal pencil. Probably want the ones on the underside to be a bit darker, so this kind of grounds the objects in space, kind of creating the illusion of shadows being under it. There you have it. One contour line life drawing study. I hope you found this demonstration helpful. If you have any questions or would like some help on any specific problems, you may join me for office hours on Tuesdays, or you may schedule an appointment. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great time working on this, and happy drawing.